SEC squads in the swamp. Heisman candidate Anthony Richardson and the Gators welcome in Will Levis and the Cats. Florida, a 6-point favorite, totals 51.5. Kenny, you know Will Levis. He eats bananas whole, peel and all. I think it's disgusting. So do you think it's going to be chomp chomp for the Gators?
I think that's disgusting as well. I'm on the Gators this weekend. Like what I saw. I like Billy Napier as a head coach. Loved him at Louisiana. Backed him probably almost every game that he played there. Was told right away when he got there by some people from Lafayette that this guy can coach football. We know it. We can see it. You can tell. And he did a great job. And I think he's going to do the same thing at Florida. And Anthony Richardson, we saw him last year. The speed, the athleticism, the passing ability. He's just a playmaker. Without Chris Rodriguez in the lineup, it's a small drop-off for Kentucky this weekend. But I like the Gators here. They come up with a big win, faced adversity several times. They were trailing in that game and came back to take the lead and then finally win that game. I think that's a big win in the swamp. Always a tough place to play. So give me the Gators.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Gators, too. Will Levis also puts mayonnaise in his coffee,
Gross.
Which is weird and has nothing to do with the game whatsoever, but it's still really, really gross. But I'm going to take the Gators, too. Kenny mentioned the absence of Chris Rodriguez. Kavosiey Smoke's a good running back, but he's not great. He cannot provide the same kind of output that a guy like Chris Rodriguez can. I think that with Florida, the biggest question is, what do you get out of Anthony Richardson? He didn't really have to pass all that much. All these comparisons to Cam Newton, look, he didn't really have to throw all that much. He's going to have to throw a little bit. I think Kentucky's defense, because it's so fundamentally sound, it gets Jordan right back off suspension as well. You're going to see them make Anthony Richardson win with his arm. I think he can do it. I think he'll show why he's got that Heisman hype against the Wildcats, and I'll take Kentucky, and I'll lay those points.
All right, meantime, the Lincoln Riley era off to a booming start last week. Caleb Williams and the Trojans beat Rice 66-14 as 33-point home favorites. The defense had 3 pick sixes in the game. Pick Six Podcast, download, subscribe today. Will Anderson Jr. might be a guest of the Pick Six Podcast one day, Kenny. This week, Riley getting a taste of Pac-12 conference play as the Trojans visit Stanford. USC has lost 4 of the past 5 trips to Stanford. Barrett, should we lay the 8 with USC this week?
Look, I'm a big believer in Lincoln Riley and a big believer in USC. That said, I'm still kind of wavering back and forth, but yeah, I'm gonna lay those points with the Trojans, and in part because Stanford is not really what Stanford is supposed to be. We all know Stanford. We're old enough to remember Stanford as that team that wins the battle at the line of scrimmage. That's not really what they are anymore. If they were, then yeah, maybe they could get pressure on Caleb Williams, but I don't think they'll be able to do that. The weakness of USC is the offensive line. Stanford's not going to be able to exploit that. As a result, you're going to see Caleb Williams, you're going to see Travis Dye, you're going to see that entire offense absolutely light it up on the farm. So I'll take USC. I'll grab those points. I think Caleb Williams on a big stage, the biggest stage of his USC career so far, prime time, will make a statement.
Yeah, you're 100% right on, Barrett, about the defensive front for Stanford. Not very good, well below average. They don't have one guy on that line that I would want to say he's a stud player, but their offensive line has 4 studs on that offensive line. They are a great offensive line. I think that's got to be the game plan here in this game. I'm going to go under. I was hoping you were going to say Stanford plus the points, but it didn't really bother me either way because I think I made USC right around 8 in this game. I don't have a play on the side, but I can see Lincoln Riley and the enthusiasm he brings there, and Caleb Williams. They have a lot of athletes, but Stanford at home, I think they dictate the pace here. I think they get the 2 tight end set. I think they run between those tackles and tight ends. I think they control the game, and they control the clock, and they try to keep USC off the field as much as they can. They may not win. They may fall behind late, and they may have to change their offensive strategy, but I'm going under here, under 66.5 points. USC scores obviously overinflated last week, 66-14. They got 4 turnovers, 3 pick sixes. The offense had about 500 yards, but that doesn't equal out to 66 points. So not happening against Stanford. I just don't think that they'll have the football enough to be able to put up that many points in this game. So I'm going to go under.
All right, so USC in the under for Barrett and Kenny. Houston remains in the top 25, rallied to beat UTSA, 37-35 in 3 overtimes last week. Much tougher game this week against Texas Tech on the road in Lubbock. Spreads 4 in favor of the Red Raiders, total 62.5. Texas Tech 4-0 straight up and ATS. in the past 4 meetings against Houston. Kenny, what's your approach in this game?
Well, this game's being played in Texas, and Will Anderson Jr. is also playing in Texas this weekend, a Heisman Trophy favorite. This one, I'm going with Houston. I'm going to go with Dana Holgorsen here. I think it's a coaching mismatch. Joey McGuire, first-year head coach, Texas Tech. He was a 13-year high school coach in Texas, was very successful. He showed that success as an outside linebacker, assistant head coach at Baylor, but he's never a coordinator in college. Gets the job. His quarterback slump is out, but it's not a big drop-off. Donovan Smith's a pretty good athlete, came from Bishop Gorman, but he didn't play quarterback at Bishop Gorman. He played wide receiver because they had a guy named Robinson. I don't know, UCLA's quarterback. Now I know his name, but it just,
Will
I just
Anderson.
lost it.
Will Anderson.
Well, that's right. So in this one, I like Houston. I like what Dana Holgersen's done. His third year there. First 2 years they lost. The last year was a great season for them. Clayton Tune returns. I think Houston can win this game straight up, Hakeem.
Yeah, I'm with the Cougars straight up as well. I'll grab the points. I don't think I'll need them. And Kenny, you mentioned Clayton Tune. You saw him leap at the pylon against UTSA. I think maybe there's a negative sort of reaction to that, going to 3 overtimes against UTSA. UTSA, the Roadrunners, are good. I don't think folks recognize they're actually a pretty good program. But I think you're right. Dana Holgorsen finally at Houston has his guys, great receivers, good tight ends, can spread it around, and he's got the trigger man in Clayton Tune who knows how to distribute the ball. So, yeah, I think Houston right now is simply a better team. I think they're underrated. I think they go out there, they get the win. And look, nothing against Joey McGuire and Texas Tech. Like you mentioned, Kenny, a high school coach, he's going to be able to get those players in Lubbock. He will be successful there, but it's too early for that. I think Houston gets revenge because this was a big game for them last year that they lost, the only game they lost in the regular season, and they get out of there with the win straight up, but grab those points as well.
Another top 25 matchup on the slate. Number 9, Baylor visiting number 21, BYU. Bears beat BYU 38-24 at home last season. This year in Provo, where the Cougars will be without their top 2 receivers. Spreads down to 2.5 in favor of the Cougars. Baylor 4-0 straight up in their past 4 games as an underdog. Barrett, who do you like in this spot?
I like Baylor. I'd be surprised if they're an underdog by 10-15 tomorrow night. I just think with those 2 receivers, Gunner, Romney especially, because he's such a big part of that offense going out, it's going to be hard for BYU to figure things out. And I don't think people know Puka Nacua all that well. He is a flat-out stud as well. But I think this team against Baylor's defensive front, that front 7, that front 4, you're playing at elevation. You got to be deep. Baylor is deep along the defensive line. So playing at elevation is not going to be an issue for them. I love what they've been able to do with Blake Shapen at quarterback. I think that team right now, Baylor, should be a top 10, top 5 team if you're talking about the college football playoff right now, one you're looking at. And look, this game's going to be so cool, right? Because there are always some games. We just mentioned the Texas Tech-Houston game from last year. You look back and think, wow, that game actually meant an awful lot. Well, I think in retrospect, you're talking about this game as potentially being huge for the winner and the loser, because I tell you, if BYU is able to hold serve at home, they might be able to make the playoff if they go undefeated, whereas Baylor might need a signature win, and BYU could provide that.
I'm going to go over in this game. I think there's going to be points aplenty. The 2 best receivers are out. Romney and Nacua are both, no doubt, their best receivers. Georgia has scored points for the last 2 years with no wide receivers and just tight ends. Well, BYU has 3 solid tight ends, and I think you're going to see those tight ends catching a lot of passes in this game. I really like what I've seen out of Jaron Hall. First time I seen him step onto the football field, he beat out Romney for the job. He's got great quickness, got a strong arm. He can make all the throws. Had a big week last week, 25 for 32, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns. That was at South Florida on the road. And South Florida's got a pretty good defense, too. Nobody expected BYU to put up a 50-burger on the Bulls. I think they're going to put up points in this one. Baylor's offense with Sharpen is tough. They're going to score points. This game's going to go back and forth. I think that altitude could wear Baylor down a little bit, their defense at least. So I'm going over the points here.
Kenny White, Barrett, Sallee here with us on Sportsline on CBS Sports HQ. Thank you, men. Let's take a look back at their selections for another big week. Week 2 of the college football season highlighted by Alabama and Texas. Barrett likes Alabama. Kenny likes the under. He also likes Will Anderson Jr. to win the Heisman. You can get it right now at 20-1. So Kenny likes Will Anderson Jr. in Alabama to cover the number at Texas. Both in agreement on Florida. Speaking of Heisman Trophy candidates, Anthony Richardson and the Gators looking to take down Kentucky, cover the 6.5. USC and the under, both in agreement on the Cougars are getting points there against Texas Tech on the road, and Baylor and the over in the play in Provo.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.